Fighting Food Insecurity by Bonnie Dickson. When I was growing up, I was well aware that there were starving children in Africa. Since everyone here is at least my age or older, I bet you were too. Finish your dinner. There are starving children in Africa, my mom would say. In fact, there were plenty of ads with miserable children who were too emaciated and too worn by the effort of living, whose faces were in ads and in news stories in case we had any doubts. Historically, the US had been a world leader in reducing hunger both here and abroad, even if our attempts at both have been somewhat ham-handed. One sociology professor, Janet Hoppendijk, wrote in Sweet Charity, Emergency Food and the End of Entitlement, that the US thought we had solved the problem at home until the mid-1960s, even going so far as to drop programs, and now, like a bad relative, it's back. Hunger might be a symptom of food insecurity, but food insecurity is not hunger. We don't talk about starvation or hunger much anymore. We've changed the terms for better or worse to high food security, meaning those that don't worry about food, to marginal food security, meaning those who don't experience a change in their diet, but have occasional anxiety about having enough food, to those on the other end with food insecurity, low food insecurity, meaning folks that eat a lower quality diet and have less variety, but don't overall have less food to eat. And finally, to very low food security, meaning their food intake has been reduced or interrupted. In 2011, the US dropped one of the worst out of 20 economies that were studied in a piece by the New York Times called American Shame. The good news is that the US has studied and attempted to prevent hunger in America for a long time, and so should have a leg up on what works and what doesn't. The bad news is that we have largely failed. So why is it that when we have focused on it for so long, when we produce more food than our population needs, when we have abundant fertile land, and when food in America is historically cheaper than anywhere else in the world, that people still go hungry? And why do we care about it in this magazine? I think those are really good questions. Let's look at the last question first. A 2022 study from Feeding America, the largest hunger relief program in the US, estimated that 1 in 11 adults 60 and older faced hunger in the US. That's about 7 million older adults. Because you cannot be healthy if you don't have food, food insecurity isn't just a problem for the individual, it's a problem for communities. Low-income seniors with health issues often end up getting care in places that are paid for or subsidized by taxpayers. The absolute best resource allowing someone to age at home is their health. Healthy people spend less money, time, and effort on housing, medical care, insurance, and just about everything necessary for life. One key finding from the study was that food security exacerbates many of the unique health, economic, mobility, and nutritional challenges that come with aging. This is especially true for those with disabilities. Seniors with a disability had food insecurity rates over twice as high as seniors without disabilities. For older adults with disabilities, food insecurity rates more than 3 times as high as older adults without disabilities. Older adults with food insecurity have higher rates of mental health issues such as stress or depression, are more likely to suffer from congestive heart failure, high blood pressure, asthma, obesity, and gum disease, and are more likely to have malnutrition. And not surprisingly, they live shorter lives according to the recent Journal of American Medicine Association, JAMA. What can we do about it? The main cause of food insecurity is poverty. Low-wage earners spend nearly a quarter of their earnings on food. Other costs that squeeze that amount include housing. The common rule of thumb is that wage earners should spend no more than 30% of their paychecks on housing. But the Pew Research Center found that 23% of Americans spent at least 50% of their income on housing. Another 35% is spent on healthcare, and with no other costs such as transportation expenses, clothing, taxes, or other incidentals, it becomes apparent why we have food insecurity in America. The numbers don't add up to a doable option. When people have to decide between food and medicine, the outcome is always going to be unhealthy people one way or another. Poverty USA recommends the following solutions. Work to modernize SNAP benefits so that they better represent needs. Because SNAP benefits are the same across the country, people who live in areas with higher expenses have less money available. Reduce American food waste to a number that matches other countries. Currently, Americans waste about 30 to 40% of food, but the rest of the world wastes closer to 30%. One issue is the best by, use by, and sell by date that often leads to discarding perfectly good food. Offer free school lunches for everyone, that there is no stigma from making use of the school lunch program. Let me repeat that. Offer school lunches for everyone so that there is no stigma from making use of the school lunch program. The problem with these suggestions is that they remind me of financial planning seminars for the poor that begin with cut back on the number of Starbucks coffees you drink and don't go out to eat one day a week. I don't see how they positively contribute to the success of low-income people. I can't be the only one who sees cartloads of processed food being paid for by SNAP benefits. The Foundation for Economic Education claims that people spend about 20% of their benefits on junk food and 27% less on fruits and vegetables than non-SNAP households. Worse, NBC News in 2021, the article noted that SNAP benefits are dictated by the Thrifty Food Plan, which is woefully out of date as it hasn't been updated since 1975. I don't imagine people who are food insecure get to the point that they are throwing food out because of a date. And the US doesn't have a food shortage. We are still sending plenty of food to other countries. Free school lunches have their place, but ask any school, and they are always trying to find ways to feed children during school breaks, such as weekends, holidays, and summer. Feeding a child 1 to 2 meals a day for 5 days a week when they need food for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and so do their non-school age siblings and parents, seems a bit like throwing rocks in the ocean. The greatest solution is to eradicate poverty, but here are a few others. Volunteer at a food bank, co-op, gleaning project, community garden, or soup kitchen. You'll get a feeling for who those faceless people are that we talk about when we talk about food insecurity, but you'll also be involved. My neighborhood has a food pantry that someone put up just like the free libraries. When the neighborhood is flush, it's filled with food items. When we aren't, it's filled with bags of beans and macaroni. Teaching someone how to use those bags of beans and macaroni might be another great opportunity, since nearly every food bank includes them in the mix of items they send home with people. Home economics used to be a required class. Maybe it's time we bring it back. Several people in my neighborhood have also put up tables for excess food. When gardening season is upon us, neighbors can take home fresh grown zucchini, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. It doesn't do much for the winter months, but being able to preserve food is as easy as a Google search or a stop at the local library. And because poor people have been doing it for eons, it's accessible. Volunteer with gleaning projects. You'll get food, and so will someone else. What's more, it will be food that might have gone into the waste stream, so you are solving three problems at once. Vote. Speak with your representative. Make some noise. I attended the opening of a community garden years ago, and my representative was there. I took her aside and spoke to her about how we had so few options for just getting food. At the time, there was a minimal 3-mile bus or car ride to get to the nearest food store. I was surprised to find it was something she cared about as well because her mother lived in my neighborhood. Having a store close by doesn't fix anything if you have no money, but if your grocery store is a local 7-Eleven, you are paying way much more for your daily food intake and it won't be nutritious. I bring up food desserts because it's something I care about, but you might want to consider becoming a voice for and I should say this again. I bring up food deserts because it's something I care about, but you might want to consider becoming a voice for a government benefit. Supplemental Security Income, SSI, has an asset limit of 2,000 for individuals and 3,000 for couples and hasn't been adjusted since 1984. For every other kind of government program, assets limits are regularly adjusted or eliminated. If enough people join their voices, maybe someone will make the program more 21st century. Donate. Yes, cans of food and other non-perishables are great, but if you can swing it, send them money. My local food bank says they can provide 2 meals for every dollar donated. A can of soup costs more than that, so it's a pretty good deal. I'm lucky that they also operate a farm and a repack location, so people in my area are being offered organic, fresh food. Share seeds. You can grow tomatoes, basil, bush beans, and the like just about anywhere. There are videos online for growing crops in an apartment window, apartment terrace, or just about any corner of the world. Gardeners know that most packages of seeds have more than a single person wants to grow. I'm looking at you. Packages of 20 seeds of zucchini? By sharing, someone may get the bug and start a way to grow their own fresh food. A very inexpensive package of seeds can be bought for as little as 25 cents at the local dollar store, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of online videos showing how to use food scraps to grow more food. Free seeds are just a seed bank away and usually can be accessed at your local library. Promote programs like SNAP, but also Meals on Wheels and congregate or dining room meals, also called senior center meals. Improve programs that support financial well-being. Create more affordable housing. If people aren't spending their last cent in order to live off the streets, they can begin to spend money on the luxury item of food. What we know is that the problem won't resolve itself. Ignoring it hasn't helped. Globally, locally, we have to make a commitment that people, all people, deserve healthy, nutritious meals.